Hello and welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast. This is episode number 76. And if you don't already know, just follow us. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube as well. So let's go. This is episode number 76. And I am so happy because my guest today, she is someone, at least in Singapore, who has kind of like gone off the radar, kind of forgotten. But the Silver Fox Hustle have not. We have not forgotten her. Now she is the first rower to represent Singapore at the Olympic Games. She was ranked 23rd. In Rio, and also a SEA Games and gold medalist, and competed at the Asian Games, of course. Now, Aisha's story is one of courage, grit, perseverance, and the epitome of the hustle. Now, we also hear that she just started business. So we're going to talk about that to her as well. Welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast, Saiyidah Aisyah, or better known as Aisyah the Rower, right?
I guess so. Yeah. People know me as Aisyah Rower.
Right,
Yes.
right. How have you been? I said at the beginning, you were kind of like forgotten. Do you think so? In a way, like especially in Singapore,
I think no one has ever said that to me in my face
right?
before.
Okay, okay.
So now that it's in my face, I'm like, huh, yeah, people don't really think about me anymore, which is fine. But sometimes, like Brita Harian will like reach out to me and ask me questions. I'm like, okay, I still feel remembered.
People like me as well, try to get you for the longest of time as well.
I
um,
know. I'm so sorry. So it's yeah, Facebook Messenger is strange. It puts like people who are not your contacts
mm,
like somewhere else.
true, true. Now, you are based in what? Tell us, where are you based in, and and what do you do at the moment?
Yeah, so currently I am in Massachusetts in the US. I would like to say I'm in Boston, but I live about 50 minutes away from Boston. So, in the East Coast of the US, I am currently a full-time athlete. So still living the dream, but but getting paid for what I do. So I'm working with this company called Hydro. It's a rowing machine with a screen on it. And basically, the person who's rowing, you will be able to watch a coach on the screen coaching you. So I'm that coach on the screen.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And yeah, like you mentioned on the side, I've been doing a lot of athletic counseling. I did my master's program, just graduated a few months ago. So I just started this business because it's something that I'm passionate about.
Right, right, and this business is actually I want to talk about this right at the end, but it's okay. Just shoot, right? So what business is this exactly? Like I just saw your post by the way on Instagram and Facebook. So what business is this exactly?
So it's a mental skills business, a mental skills coaching. So I work with athletes, whether individual or teams, or sometimes I work with coaches and parents as well. And I offer either individual sessions or team workshops. So there's this thing called athletic counseling, which is what I graduated with this master's. It's like counseling basically, but focuses on the athletes' performance in sport. But the thing about what affects performance in sport is everything else in your life. So in that session with the athletes, usually I'm talking about everything else that's happening in their lives that affects their performance.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Very interesting because this masters that you took, is it specifically to sports counseling, or is just a broad masters?
Yeah, no, it specializes in
Right.
athletic counseling. So I
Nice,
work
nice.
mainly with athletes.
Beautiful. Now, we will talk about because I know, because I was reading and doing some research and all, and what you are doing right now, has got something to do with how you lived your life after Rio as well, and there is a little bit of comparison there and why you're doing it right now. But we'll talk about that later on, right? What was your childhood like, Aisha? I know you had for like what four brothers or something like that.
Yeah.
How was that like? Talk us through your childhood and family and stuff like that.
Yeah, so growing up with four brothers, I think that made me very, very competitive. Like especially when it comes to food, chicken nuggets. When my mom cooks chicken nuggets and put it on the table, and if you're not there to eat it, it'll be gone in like a few seconds. So everything was a competition. Even like Game Boys, computers, everything is about like who gets there first. I have a story to tell. We bought a Game Gear. There's this thing called a Game Gear, which is a Game Boy but bigger version. And we fought over it so much that my mom threw it out of the window.
Literally.
Literally. So we
Wow.
only used it for one day and then it was gone.
Boys, right? Boys.
Exactly.
So I take it like chicken is your favorite food.
I actually just had chicken nuggets for dinner, so it is my favorite food.
Right.
Not an athlete food, but
Yeah. So and parents as well. And which schools did you go to?
so I went to Woodlands Primary School,
Yep.
and then went to Bukit Panjang Government High, and then ACJC and NUS.
Right. Bukit Panjang Government High. That's very familiar because I went to the school opposite. Take
Which
Y
is
Secondary School. Take Y
oh,
Secondary School. Though I mean, though I don't know whether it's still there, but yeah. And you talk about the four boys and being competitive and stuff like that, right? How about the sports part? I know you're competitive in food and the game consoles and stuff like that, right? But in terms of sports, right? Did they have an influence on you as well in that competitive nature and stuff like that?
I think so. I think we played a lot of. Honestly, we never played a lot of sports together. There was just a lot of fighting going on at home.
What?
We
Okay.
played a lot of wrestling together.
Right.
But mine, so I have three older brothers, and only one of them played sport.
Okay.
Uh, and then I have one younger brother who also became a rower because he was
Mm,
like graded by me. So out of five, only three of us were like very athletic.
okay.
Uh, but I think it was more of like, I don't know, I feel that I was very tomboyish when I grew up. Like I love to wear my brother's clothes.
Really?
Yeah, so I never wore skirts and dresses until university.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they had some impact on me on like being
Mm.
a tomboy, like playing sports. But yeah, I think I was just very athletic.
Nice. Now, netball was your sport, right? Basically, when you were growing up as primary school, secondary, and as secondary school, right? And you excelled in it as well because, you were in the age group national teams. Why didn't you pursue in that direction in terms of netball?
Yeah, good question. So I went to ACJC for netball. And then that was when I kind of like found rowing. So I had netball training and rowing training. And then when I was in the age group national team, it was under 15, which was in secondary school. Or is
Mm,
it 15 and under? I don't remember the terms. But basically, coming from Bukit Panjang Government High, which is not a girls' school, when
mm,
I went to the combined school, when I went to the national team, I was the only one from a co-ed school, and it
right.
felt very awkward. And they know each other because they've been playing for so long together. So because of that, I kind of like, even in ACJC, I was the only one from the co-ed school. Everyone else knew each other. So it like and the rowing attracted me more because I felt more belonged.
Mm,
But I still love netball. I went into coaching after I kind of like finished my
right.
competitive netball days. But yeah, unfortunately, it was because of the environment that kind of like pushed me out.
It's very interesting because you talked about the co-ed school and stuff, right? And then you coming into a school and because rowing is such an individual sport and is that is kind of like tells something about you as well. Is there a different kind of thing between, I'm talking about the mental aspects, right? And I'm sure we all know this, right? The mental part of things in terms of the a team sport as well as an individual sport. What are the differences? You're the mental skills coach there.
No, it was definitely challenging for me to like kind of like transition into rowing because you have the team aspect and the individual aspect, and you also have like the court game aspect and the
Mm,
racing aspect. So it's very different. But I think going into rowing helped me learn more about myself, learning that I like to be on my own. I like to be on the water, like chasing my own goal, not having to think about other people.
yeah.
But when I joined rowing, I did have a few other people who were also in the team. And there's also a team aspect to rowing, even though I'm in the boat on my own. So there's always a team aspect. And I think that's the thing that attracted me, having friends that do the same things.
It's good and bad, isn't it, in an individual sport? Because ultimately, if you do well, it's basically you and obviously your coach. But if you don't do well, it's basically your kind of your fault in a way. But in a team aspect, you in or game, you kind of like can put the blame on somebody else if something goes wrong, that kind of thing, and it's very important that we know that as well, right? Now we're going to talk about rowing just a little bit later on, right? You were also a PT, a personal trainer for a bit, right? A PE teacher and an SD officer at Dan Poly as well, right? I mean, a few jobs there. Did you already know that you wanted out of all this is just like a kind of like a stepping stone kind of going on to the next thing, or you thought that I just want to try out these jobs, and you didn't know what exactly you wanted to do?
Good question. I think most of the jobs that I have had in the past are always about like coaching, teaching, like transferring of knowledge. And I think that's where my passion lies in, like wanting to help others achieve something. And no, I had no idea that I had to quit my job to be a full-time athlete. But I remember when I was teaching, like in Ngee Poly, being a SDO, student development officer, I'm constantly, and even being a teacher in a high school, the PE teacher, I'm always thinking about training. Like I could be better off training than sitting here and teaching kids. And for me, I feel that especially if you're a teacher, if you're not 100% in it, you will impact like the 40 kids that you have. And I don't like that. I don't like knowing that I'm not giving my all in my job. So that was when I realized like, okay, I have to put one aside to really do well in one, because at that point in time, I wasn't doing well in teaching and I also wasn't doing well in rowing. So I had to choose one.
Something had to give, right? Okay, let's go back to the rowing part, right? I obviously you got spotted in secondary school,
Yes.
and then from then on you went to the national team, rowing. Now, what is it about rowing that you love? Obviously, you said it at the beginning just now that it was you like to be alone in a way, that kind of thing. But were you a natural at it? And what is it about rowing that you fell in love with?
No, I was not a natural at it. When I started rowing, I hated it because, especially coming from a very dynamic sport like netball, rowing is the same stroke that you do over and over again. It's a very boring sport if you put it in that perspective. But I think I was very competitive with myself. I keep on coming back to training because I wanted to prove to myself that I can do this. So I remember the first time I was in a single scull, I spent more time in the water than on the boat. I was always like I was capsizing all the time. It was
Okay.
terrible, but once I get the feeling of rowing, that was when I felt like, wow, this sport is amazing. So it took a while for me to actually build the love for the sport.
You are like kind of like a sucker for pain, right? Like it's like you say, rowing is just doing the same strokes over and over again, and obviously there's like pain, and the repetition it just gets to your brain sometimes, right? Now, what are the physical attributes you think that is needed for this? Because I think it's not easy. I tried dragon boat once. It's crazy, man. It's crazy among so many of. I mean, there's a team in Dragon Boat, right? Even then, it's so crazy. So what are the physical attributes that you need for that?
Yeah, so I got talent scouted to row because I was considerably tall.
Ah,
So you
okay.
need long limbs to row because the longer your legs are, the longer your arms are, the longer the reach is. So your one stroke is longer than a stroke of someone who's shorter than you.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you multiply that by 240 strokes, which is what a usual race distance is, that's
Okay.
a lot of like advantage.
Okay.
But to think about it, so I'm 173 cm, and in the rowing world, that is considered very short.
If you compare that to the Europeans and stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
So the average height is like 190. So when I
190.
yes.
Okay.
When I went to the Olympics, I was like looking up to everyone. It was yeah, I was short.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah, you need that, and rowing is a lot of lower body. People
Okay.
think it's like a lot of upper body because you do this, but no, you need strong, powerful legs and like glutes and hip flexors.
Mm. Things that we learn every day, right? Something new that I learned. Now, in terms of the events, the different kind of events, right? What are the events? What are the events in rowing? Yours is the scull, right? The individual scull. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we only have one distance.
Right.
Open category is only 2,000 meters.
Yep.
So you have the women single scull. You also have like lightweight and open weight.
Okay.
So I used to be a lightweight rower, and then for the Olympics, I changed to the open weight rower. And then you have doubles. You have like 4 people in the boat, fours, and then you have the eights. So
Mm.
1, 2, 4, or 8.
So, what is the difference between the lightweight and the open weight category? What was the difference?
For females, the lightweight females have to be below 59
Ah,
kg.
right, right.
Yeah, so open weight is 60 kg and above. Actually,
I see.
59.1 kg and above.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had to, I mean, not I had to, but I was more towards a lightweight
Mm.
category when I was competing because they're all around the same height as me or shorter. That's why
Okay.
when I went to the open weight category, I'm considered small.
Right. Now, do you prefer one over the other? Obviously, you took part in the single sculls, right? But do you have like a preference? Like,
Yes, I prefer the lightweight category because
okay.
I'm more competitive in it.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah, but also when I was in the lightweight category, I needed to watch my weight a little bit. So that was very unhealthy, and I don't recommend it to
It's
anyone.
now that you say it's like boxing and fighting, right? Like you got to cut weight and stuff like that. Did you have to
Exactly.
experience that?
Oh my God, 100%. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a miserable experience. But the thing about boxing, when you want to make weight, you weigh in the night before and then you have a whole day to recover.
Yep.
For rowing, you weigh in 2 hours before.
Ah,
Yeah.
right. Oh,
So
that's great. That means you got to be maintained. You have to maintain that weight throughout, right?
exactly. So
Ah,
I remember I was maybe 100 grams over.
100 grams.
Yeah. So you have to wear like 6 layers of
Wow.
clothes and run around.
Now, who were your coaches and your coaches who have really influenced you, in your career so far?
Um, I have a few coaches. I have a lot actually.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most influential is the one who brought me to the Olympic Games. His name's Bennett, goes by AB. Um, Initially because he started coaching me for free because I couldn't afford any coaching, and he was like, come over to Australia and I'll coach you for free. And then eventually, with more financial support from the government, I was able to kind of like pay him. And then yeah, he was
Yeah.
just an amazing coach.
Uh, Something that he said maybe then that it has stood out in your head throughout your career. Something that he said. I mean, obviously, there's so many things that he have said that but something that you really brought it till now, even in your life.
Yeah, he was a man of very little words. So when he said something, it means a lot. The biggest, I mean, the most impactful thing that he said was actually at the Olympic Games when I didn't qualify to the next round. And I was just crying and crying, and he was so angry at me, and because I didn't do well, because he knows I have the potential to do well, but I always like stop myself from doing well.
This was in the Olympics, the 2016.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Correct, during the qualification
Yeah.
round. So what happened was I got out of the boat, and then we usually do like a post-race reflection, but I was just crying too much and he was just so angry at me. I told him I want to go shower first. So after I showered, I come back, and then the first thing he said was, I'm mad at you because I care for you. And then I just cried and cried and cried.
That made it worse.
Exactly. So for someone who has very little words and come up to you and say that, you're like, shit.
Right.
Yeah. But I
Uh,
think that and whenever I meet coaches now, I will always tell them like you got to show or tell your athletes that you care because
mm,
it's such an impactful thing.
brilliant. That's brilliant advice, man. Uh, Now, if we go back to 2013, right, when you quit, right, to go full time into rowing and stuff, and you said you told us the reasons. You can't just do both. You have to do something and do it right. It was bold. It was a bold decision, right? And the goal in mind was the Olympics. Was that the goal, or is just go full time, full on, and see whatever comes?
Yes. So I started having that goal to go to the Olympics when I actually went for the qualification for 2012.
Mm,
So it was in Korea when I went for the qualification, and I didn't really train for it. And I came second to last, which is I think 14 or 15 out of 16 countries.
okay.
That was when I realized like if I want to get to the
Yeah.
Olympics, I need to do something about it.
Right.
So the next year I was like, okay, I got to do this in order to try and get to the Olympics.
Objections and naysayers out there who said at that time, Aisha, come on, this is Singapore. Right, typical,
Yeah,
isn't it? Right. So who objected to this? I'm sure there were many.
my mom.
Yeah.
My mom was like the number one non-believer in sport
Right.
and things like that. And thankfully the people around me were supportive, like my employers, Nian Poly. They gave me a
Mm,
lot of support, and it wasn't like quitting Nian Poly. Like they kind of like gave me leave
right.
so I can come back after I'm done. So that was a big thing. Yeah, and there were my teammates then who were just continuing to like just cheer me on.
Nice, nice. So you packed up and you left for Sydney. I believe. What was that like? What was a typical day like for a full time athlete in Sydney with your coach? Obviously, what was that like?
Wow, this was so long ago. But so rowers for some crazy reason like to row early in the morning. So I remember waking up at 4:30 a.m. to get on the like you have to be on your boat at 5 a.m. So you train from 5 to 7, and then everyone goes to work. And because you're a full-time athlete, you eat and rest. Resting was the hardest part because you always think like, oh, resting, I can go shopping, I can do this and that. But like I had to train myself to do nothing. Like sometimes even like thinking about stuff is mentally tiring. So kind of like just read casual stuff or like just rest. And then in the afternoon, I will have a gym session. Because I was changing from a lightweight to open weight, I had to gain more mass. So I was in the gym about 5 to 6 times a week. Um, and then sometimes I will also do a second rowing session. So that's about 13, 14 training sessions each week.
No, just a few things that I picked up from there, right? Firstly, waking up at 4:30 or start in the water at 5 o'clock. Like you said, you don't exactly know what's the reason why rowers do that. Is it because of the weather when it gets hotter? You don't want to be starting later on? Well, what's the reason? You still don't know the reason.
I know. Because most of the people either have school or work. Like my
So,
coach will have to go to
right.
work.
Okay, so
Mm.
that's pretty early. That's not pretty early. That's crazy early, man. Start at
It's
5.
very early.
And the second part that I picked up on, the rest part, right? It's like literally rest. You can't do anything. And you're right, because it's so difficult to do. It's so difficult for any normal human being to just do nothing, right?
Exactly. That's why even when I was teaching, I wasn't resting, even though when I was sitting down working on the
Mm,
computer, it
yeah.
wasn't rest. That's why I wasn't well rested for my next training.
Right, right. So, what in general, right? In all those training sessions leading up to the Olympics and SEA Games and what have you, right? The sacrifices is obviously being away from family. That's one as well. What were the sacrifices that you needed to make, or maybe change a little bit from when you were in Singapore? What are the differences in terms of sacrifices?
Um, Firstly, I never like to use the word sacrifice because it's
Yep.
a huge thing. I feel like it's choices I make and the consequences that I have to deal with. And the choices I made were to not have a life of a 20-year-old. Like I never went out with friends until late at night. Sometimes I would go, but I have to leave early, especially when I was a lightweight rower. Whenever I go out with friends, I don't usually get to eat. I was starving all the time. So those are the choices I made, really foregoing the fun and exciting part of life, being a 20-something. So
I'm
that's
sure
why now
I'm sure you snicked in a couple of nuggets up here and there.
nuggets are my weaknesses.
I like it when you say that, it's not a sacrifice, rather it's a choice, right? Because you made the choice, unless you were, forced to do something, right?
Okay.
I mean, people from the outside looking in, like, they've not in the sports fraternity, especially, it is a sacrifice. You know what I mean? It's really a sacrifice not to be, or maybe not the going out part at night with friends and all, but the other things, right? The other things are like the time, waking up at 4 o'clock. I could be sleeping, things like that. And it's very nice to hear you say that it's a choice, because not a lot of people will think that way. Let's talk about competitions. Aisyah, you won the SEA Games gold in Myanmar that same particular year in 2013, right? And
Yeah.
obviously before that you had a couple of bronzes in the SEA Games, right? Did you feel vindicated going full time, and then suddenly boom, it's goal? Did you feel that was the difference, maybe?
Definitely. I think the full-time training helped me to focus, helped me to recover better,
Mm.
and just helped me to prepare better. I think it was just important for me to just focus on one thing and then do well in that thing.
Right. 2014, the Asian Games, right? You did well in the heats, but finished last in the final. And I like this, and I want to read this out because I think you said this. Okay, I didn't say it. You said it. Uh, I guess I didn't want it bad enough. I wasn't as hungry as I was during the SEA Games. Third place in the heats made me a little complacent. I thought that was very frank, from an athlete, especially from Singapore, after a race or after whatever match or whatever, being or seeing it as it is, like it was basically my fault. I was complacent, this and that. It was very refreshing. Did you really, just wanted to just go out there and say? Because I don't know. I feel that in Singapore sometimes, after, especially in the SEA Games and what have you, the athletes come out and say, yeah, I did my best. Uh, my personal best, whatever, it can be anything, right? I don't know. I'm cynical, right? I think that they are very safe in that sense. Do you think our athletes are a little bit safe in that sense?
I don't know about other athletes,
Yeah.
but if you know me well, I'm a very frank person.
Right. Okay.
Like I'm very honest about telling you how I feel.
Mm,
And I think that stems from me just having to be honest with myself.
mm,
And really accepting that, I did not do well, and not
okay.
not being afraid to own up what I did wrong.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember because it was so long ago, but it sounds like something I would say.
So definitely, I'm sure it was you. Okay. And I don't know. I'm just asking, right? Because you're experienced in this. In terms of the national team and whatever, is there like a press officer telling you, or with you saying, don't say this, do not say that? I don't know. No.
Yeah, good question. When you were saying that, I was actually thinking about that. Like, did I had media training? I don't think so.
Okay.
um, yeah, no, I did not had media training until I went to the Olympics, and they taught us how to talk.
Who's they?
Uh,
Who taught you?
Sports
Okay.
SG,
Okay. Okay.
they did have media training when you go for certain
Right.
competitions. But yes, I don't remember having media training then. And yeah, I think it came from my heart.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That should be the way. As long as you're not vulgar about it and going out and spouting out f words and stuff, right? So it's great. Now I want to talk about the Rio Olympics qualification part, right? Because you had to finish top 7 at the Asia and Oceania Continental qualification regatta in Korea, right? And you didn't qualify for the A final. That's right, right? And
Yeah.
you had to finish top in the B final to qualify. How was
Yeah.
that? It must be like nerve wracking, right? You have to finish top in the B final.
Yeah, it was. I remember it was very scary because on paper, I was not even supposed to qualify because my results were not on par with the
Mm,
top 6, top 7.
right.
But the only thing I remembered about that B final race was putting my mind in the boat and just focus on what I was supposed to do. Like, rowing is easy in the sense that whatever your opponents are doing, it doesn't matter. You just put your head in the boat and focus on what you do, unless like they come and attack you and then you have to answer the call and things like that. But most of the time, you just play your game. So all I remember was telling myself legs, legs, legs 240 times. Because that's how many strokes you take. That's how many pushes you need to make in a race.
Right.
And yeah, that's honestly, like, people ask me like, what goes through your mind when you were doing that race? That's the only thing that went through my mind.
Wow. Wow. And when you finished, it must have been like, it's surreal, wasn't it? Like to be able to qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah, but I did not know I qualified because the top 3 rowers in that final B was so close to each other.
Right.
So I didn't know whether I was first or the other person was first. But until the boat came and tell me that I qualified, and then it was just like a sense of relief.
I just want to ask you this, right? These 240 strokes, right? It's not the same for everyone.
No.
It's not the same for everyone, right? It's like, wow. So you actually but you don't count, right, while you do it. Sorry,
Oh,
I'm
I
just being
count.
ignorant. Really? You count?
Yeah. Yes. So this is when we go to the mental skills portion. So when you are hurting, you distract your mind by thinking of something else. So
Okay.
I distract my mind by thinking about counting, counting, counting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So different people have different ways of most people don't count.
Most people don't count, but I count.
So on the dot or whatever you want to call it, it's 240 strokes and you finish.
I'm pretty sure it's not 240 strokes.
Oh,
Maybe plus minus.
I'm so amazed with this thing. It's so very precise and it's so detailed. It's great. And that's what that's how you get to be a champion. No, seriously, it's in the details, right? The small little things that's going to win you things. It's great. It in Rio you finished 23rd, right? What was the competition like? And you said it at the beginning, right? You look up and they're like freaking 1.9 meters tall and stuff like that, right? Were you daunted when you first went up when you first went up there and think, oh, this is crazy, man?
Yes, I definitely had imposter syndrome when I was there. Especially coming like 7th in Asia and Oceania, and being small and tiny and being the first from your country. I didn't feel like I belonged. And also I remember it was during the National Day, and then there was a lot of media about like, oh, Aisyah is the first to represent. So much pressure. I remember
Right.
there was so much pressure, and that made me not enjoy the whole process.
Right.
Like, the whole Olympic journey for me was just so stressful.
Mm.
And if I had a chance to redo it again, I would, because I would enjoy it more. And that's the other thing, coming into like mental skills again. One of the best things I've gained and learned and adopted is when you have fun doing something, everything else seems so much easier. But when you add stress into the picture, you're like just thinking about the stress and everything will not go according to plan. So yeah, that was what happened during the Olympics. I came in with just no expectations of anything because it was my first time. And my goal at that point in time was to qualify for the Olympics. I did not know what my goal
Yeah.
was during the Olympics. So with no direction, I was just like a lost ship.
Right. And you brought up a very, very important thing, Aisha, and it's about this pressure with the first rower, the first sprinter, the first whatever to be in to go to the Olympics, and what it can be anything, right? But this mental thing, to the training part, I think it's very essential. And why haven't we done this with our athletes? Like, people are so far way ahead of us in that sense as well, right? Why haven't we done that? Because I think you're right, right? And people from the outside will be thinking, yeah, you're the first rower, get on with it, be just handle the pressure, because that's what you wanted anyway, right? To be in the But people don't realize that there's the mental part as well. It's not only the physical part, the mental part as well. And I think this is so much needed, right? And that's what you're trying to do right now with your new business. And just going back to that from your experience, right? How far are we from clinching any medals in rowing in the Olympic Games? Just be frank about it. In the Olympics, at least maybe I don't know a bronze or whatever. How far are we? We talk about physical part, we take that away, the mental part as well. How long is it going to take?
Yeah, in the Olympics, pretty long.
Yeah,
Because I think what is required to build like a Olympic champion rower is support, definitely, which for rowing we don't really have a lot of support, like financial support,
yeah,
like resources from NSAs and all that.
right,
And having people to train with. So that's why I'm trained in Sydney, because having people to push you on is very important. It's part of just getting better, and not having that in Singapore is hard.
right.
Um, yeah, so in terms of mental, huh? I don't know. I feel that Singaporean athletes do have like that mental strength. I think it just needs to be unleashed or maybe trained, because
Right.
this is what I always tell coaches, like mental training is not like an extracurricular. It should be part of the
Mm,
training program. And sometimes when I'm working with coaches here in the US, they put me in slots like maybe after lunchtime or in between training and lunchtime during a weekend where they're free. And I'm thinking like, no, I am not something that you put in between your sessions. I'm something that you intentionally integrate in your training session. And
right.
that's what mental skills should be.
Yeah, I think we can never underestimate the mental part of things. I think I was talking to Shanti Pereira as well, and she almost went into a meltdown, and then after she recovered and all, and it's very important, and no matter what we say, it should be part of the training sessions and stuff, and that's great. And we just go back to your Rio experience, and you came back. I just want to ask you about this, and I think I don't know what was it. You didn't feel like it anymore, like going to training. And because I read it from somewhere, I think it was in 2017 or something like that. And what was it? You didn't feel like you belong in the water, or you just didn't want to go for training sessions. What was it like?
Yeah, so after Rio, I think it's normal to experience that post-Olympic depression where suddenly you don't have training, you're going back to normal life, and normal life isn't normal. And then I went back to work, and then like having to juggle again between work and training. And then every time I got back on the boat, I hated it. Like I hated being on water, I hated the sport. It was so much so that I told my coach about it, and he said maybe it should spend more time away from the boat. Yeah, so that was when I struggled a little bit with like identity issues, and and just trying to find myself again.
Right, right. Have you?
Yes, I think so. I hope so. Oh God.
So you are back rowing as well, as in there's no, you love the water, you love you're back.
Yes, so it took me a while to get back in the boat. But currently I have a rule for myself that I will not row for training, because that just takes the fun away from it. Every time I
Okay.
get back in the boat and try to train for something, I'm always comparing myself to my older self. Like I'm not fast enough, I'm not good enough. So I'm rowing now for my job, which really takes away the part where I have to be fast. I just have to
Mm.
be good at rowing and good at coaching.
Right. Great, great. Now, this is the part where, I usually do this with my guests, 10 questions, quick fire round, and you shoot your answers, right? But this time with
Okay.
you, I want to do it a little bit differently, because I picked up a couple of quotes from yourself from a couple of years, or I don't know when was that, and I think it was from you anyway, just looking at those quotes, it has to be from you, right? I just want to go through each of these quotes, and you just elaborate on it, or tell me what you feel, right? The first one: you have to be obsessed with doing something, or else you are just an average Joe.
Oh, so this is a hard one,
Mm,
because if I was my old self, I would agree with that. And that's definitely something I would say. But currently, I believe that you have to have a healthy obsession. Like, yes, you have to be obsessed in something that you do, but you also have to have this B word called balance in life.
right, right. So basically you just changed a little bit. It's like healthy obsession.
Exactly.
Right. Nice. Next one. There are ways to get around eating healthily. If eating healthy is expensive, make your own juice. It boils down to effort.
Oh, I don't even know if I ever said this though. Um, yes, I think it is an effort to eat healthy. That is why chicken nuggets are not good effort.
So that's bad effort.
But no, I think it does take a little bit more to really focus on eating healthy. I think like being intentional in what you choose to eat,
Yeah.
and not to eat. Yeah.
Nice. Next one. I have too many friends who are doing full-time work with a complete lack of interest. Do what you love and what you do, and love what you do.
Oh, yes, I still believe in that 100%. You got to do what you love and love what you do. It's hard because I have seen friends who follow their passion, who follow their gut feeling, but still like have not qualified for the Olympic Games, and like they follow this route to doing something that they truly love, but then like financially they're not doing well. It's hard.
Yeah.
But I I don't know. I don't have the answers to all the questions, but from my experience, whenever I follow what I love and what I believe in, it always brings me to where I'm meant to be.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that this path has worked for me. It might work for someone else.
Right. Right. Because I think you said it. It's difficult, isn't it? Like you love this, you want to go full time at it, but you got to think about the other things, the family, the food, the money, and what have you. It's difficult. Next one. No matter how much I love rowing and want to train full time, the government doesn't pay athletes. They are not going to pay your phone bills.
Ah, oh man, where do you find all these quotes?
I have my ways, my friend.
Yes, they used to not pay
Mm,
me. They used to not pay me, and it's so hard to be an
yeah,
athlete. You have to buy your gear. Sports bras are so expensive. Uh, and like you said, eating healthy is also an effort. It's also a lot
yeah.
of money to eat healthy, especially in Singapore.
I always wanted to know about this. Like how does this work with like rowing in particular, maybe, right? Like what does it take for the NSA or whoever to sponsor you to live your dreams of representing the country? Because I know about you and your crowdfunding and for Rio and the training and stuff like that. It's how does it work? Like what do the NSA want to see in you before they start? Do you have to win something and then it doesn't work anymore, right? Because you
Yeah,
need that funding for you to win something. So how does
exactly.
this work?
I know it's a chicken and egg situation, isn't
Right,
it? It's
right.
like I don't know which comes first, the funding comes first, or you proving to them that you
Yeah,
deserve the funding.
yeah,
But I know that this is a big like issue, especially amongst like full-time athletes or people who want to go full-time.
right.
For me, if I had a chance to tell someone who's like, trying to go full-time, I would just say like focus on your training, like focus on what you can do at the moment. There's a lot of things out there that's not within your control, and that's just gonna
Yeah,
stress the shit out of you.
right, right.
Focus on the things that you can control.
Which also leads to something that you also said, right? I hope the government supports athletes no matter how big or small the sport is, right? Every athlete deserves an opportunity to be the best. I think that said it, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. It could be the smallest sport in the world, but if you are trying to do it for the country, for yourself as well, going to the Olympics and what have you, I think they've got to support you as well. I think it's very important. And there's one more. There's one more quote, right? It doesn't hurt to be self-centered once in a while. If you are always out to make people happy, you won't be happy yourself.
I still agree with that. Yes. I think you have to take care of yourself first because you're not going to make everyone happy. And the most important person you have to make happy is yourself. And
Mm,
then when you are truly happy, then you can make other people around you happy.
right.
So, yes, it does sound a little bit selfish and self-centered, but I think it's just so important to prioritize yourself sometimes.
No, I don't think it's selfish. I really don't think. And by the way, is your mom happy with you already now?
Yes, she is.
I
It
hope.
took a while.
Sorry.
It took a while for her
Oh,
to
okay.
be accepting, but
Right.
yes.
By the way, how often do you come back? Like to Singapore?
So the last time I was in Singapore was before COVID.
Wow. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
So she misses me. So yeah.
Okay. Aisha, let's look a little bit to the future, right? What you obviously you're doing your coaching and stuff like that. What are your plans for the future? I do you have plans? Anything in your head? Want to compete for Singapore again? I don't know. It could be in the works. It's only you can answer that, right? So, what are your plans, objectives?
Yeah, good question. I do have I'm still dabbling a little on maybe I should give it another try. I don't know because I still feel very fit and strong. But I've been doing a lot of endurance races, like I'm training for a marathon right now. And yes, I'm a sucker for pain. That's why I choose these sports. And that's athletic. So I'm not sure where that is going at the moment, but I'm just keeping myself fit just in case I might
Right.
have a chance to go to the next Olympics. But in terms of professional, like career wise, I have a full time job now. I'm really building this business and just continue to support athletes. And I'm actually having a meeting with one of the sports psychologists
Yeah.
from Sport SG to help Singaporean athletes because eventually that is my biggest goal to come back and help the Singaporean athletes.
Any plans to come back to Singapore to work here full time? You said you're gonna help Singapore athletes as well there. As in from there, or how is it gonna work?
Currently, maybe I'll just start remotely, and then if Singapore can afford to pay me, then I'll come back. Now, I'm kidding.
I am pretty sure they can afford to pay your phone bills now.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that is, and I also I was looking at your marathon adventure and stuff like that. How many have you done now? Like
I've done two, so I'm training for the third and
third
probably
one.
the last one.
I am right at the beginning. You are a sucker for pain because I did one, and I kind of like trained for it. A proper training and stuff like that. Even then, like halfway through it, not halfway, maybe 30 kilometers through, you feel pain in places where you haven't felt pain before. It's like so damn crazy. Things start to shut off and stuff like that. So that's my first and last. That's it. Thanks. I've done it. Bucket list done with. Yeah, you definitely are a sucker for pain, man. Any advice for budding athletes who are thinking of going full time, like another Aisha, and starting small and stuff like that? Any advice for these guys?
I would say like what I said before, control the things that you can control, control the controllables. But I think the number one thing that I was being told when I was an athlete is to have that obsession in your sport, that healthy obsession, and something else. Like you are an athlete, but remember you are a human first. So take care of that portion first, then that will make you a better athlete.
Nice, nice. That was great. That was great advice. Aisha, thank you so much for being on the Silverfox Hustle podcast. It has been a long time coming. I think it took a couple of months with here and there in the pauses in between, and stuff like that. Thank you so much for taking time off. What time is it, by the way, there? Eight something.
It's 8:50
8:50.
p.m.
It's 12 hours, right? 12 hours difference. Yep. Again, thank you so much. We hope to see you again soon. Maybe if not competing for Singapore, maybe back here in Singapore helping out our athletes, or even from there, it doesn't matter. And thank you again, Aisha, for doing this.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Cheers.
And can I say something before you end?
Yes,
You
please.
see the 10 pictures behind you?
Yeah.
There's no female athletes. I'm very disappointed.
Oh,
You need to change.
okay. I will. For you, I will. I will go out. I got this from Arab Street. I'm gonna get it from Arab Street. A lady. Okay, who's your favorite, by the way? A lady athlete.
Serena Williams.
Great. I'm gonna get her seriously. All right, and I'm gonna show it to you. Thank you so much, Aisha. This has been episode number 76 of the Silverfox Hustle podcast. Follow us, please subscribe to us, and till the next episode, the hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. Cheers.